Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and I, too, wish my colleague well. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. This is a very, very important issue, and I think it is something that we need to constantly be talking about and thinking about, because it is at the heart of the life issue, and that's very, very important to me. I have some questions. I hope they can be answered fairly succinctly. Dr. Sandra Lee and Dr. Prentice, some questions for you. Did the Obama administration make any attempt to develop moral alternatives to fetal tissue research? Dr. Sandra Lee?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, not to my knowledge either.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the Trump administration understands the inherent ethical issues related to testing new medical treatments using human fetal tissue from elective abortions?
Do I think that they support?
Do they understand the inherent ethical issues?
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
Dr. Prentice?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. What role should private hospitals, medical communities, and other private sector entities play in ensuring researchers have timely access to life-affirming alternatives? And what role should the federal government play in making that possible? Dr. Prentice?
Congresswoman, one aspect would be forming some sort of donation network for the neonatal tissues or the adult tissues or the adult stem cells that can be used for these very effective and growing number of treatments.
Thank you.
Dr.
Sandra Lee.
I'd just like to add that not only has neonatal thymus tissue, which has been shown to withstand cryopreservation and banking, that could be one option to make it easily accessible for people to generate these humanized mice. But in addition, there are several examples in which cord blood alone can be used to generate these mice. So even if you wanted not look at the brown paper, there are many examples where cord blood, and which absolutely can be withstand cryopreservation. I mean, all you have to do is look at Be the Match Foundation, which stores this for clinical purposes. So cord blood.
May I interject, because it is not the case.
I'd like to finish talking, please. But cord blood can actually be injected directly into these mice and used to study HIV infection. So having, like as my colleague said, having some type of bank where we can have easy access to such tissues like this, surgical tissues, cord blood, easy access to these in a timely manner would have a tremendous impact on the research community in studying some of these horrible diseases such as HIV.
Right. Well, as a follow-up to what you just said, do you have an example of researchers using surgical tissue?
Well, one of the examples is what we've been talking about, using the neothigh mice. So actually obtaining surplus neonatal thymus tissue for children that go in for these surgeries required for heart surgeries, in order so that they can have easy access to the heart and the vessels. They have to remove the thymus, and so it's a routine part of that procedure. So that's just one example. I can give you another example in my own research. I was studying congenital heart disease, and yes, I could have obtained human fetal tissue to look at it, but instead we actually obtained discarded human valve tissue from children going in for routine surgical procedures that could use directly into our laboratory.
Thank you. And Dr. Prentice, what makes surgical tissue a viable alternative to fetal tissue? Dr. Sandra Lee has given one example. Do you have another example?
For the particular example we're talking about, it's quite abundant, actually. The way this tissue comes about or is made available through these surgeries are little kids soon after birth who have some cardiac problem. The cardiac surgeons routinely remove part or all of the thymus, just to expose the surgical field. And so one estimate I saw was something like 40,000 of these surgeries done in the U.S. every year. So there's quite a bit of this tissue available. Some of it's already been used to treat other conditions. It's a matter of just having access to the tissue.
Thank you very much. Again, this is an extremely important issue, and I am so glad the committee is holding this hearing today. to bring us up to date on the wonderful research and findings that are occurring. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.